Boy, is this a disturbing story. Dozens of dogs seized from a Kenosha home. And when we say dozens, the couple's been charged with more than 170 counts related to animal mistreatment. I want to go ahead and bring in Lieutenant Josh Hecker with Kenosha Police to talk a little bit more about what they found and how we got to this point. Lieutenant Hecker, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me today.
So, when did this case come to you all? When were you all made aware of this?
It started back in early November. We started getting some tips from citizens that live in or around these individuals' home, and they began noticing dogs in the backyard and odors and stuff that really affected their quality of life.
Was this a rural area? Sometimes, if something happens in the city, that's one thing. If it happens in a rural area, I mean, we had a story not too long ago about a couple that had dozens of dogs, but in the end, they weren't actually charged. It seemed weird. They ended up having to give away some of the dogs, but they knew all the dogs by name, and there was really no evidence of mistreatment of the dogs. This seems very different.
Yeah, they definitely were not in a rural area. They were in a neighborhood. And what's interesting about this case is the male half of our investigation was arrested and charged back in December of 24 and received bond conditions from a judge that he was not allowed to possess animals. And that case was very similar to this, and 10 animals were removed from the home around in between December and February of 24 and 25.
Oh, wow. So a repeat offender here for something very similar. Where does this rise in terms of the things you all have seen before?
Well, I've been doing this for 23 years, and this is not the first time I've seen something like this. Unfortunately, it happens, and as a dog owner myself and someone who has value for pets, I think that most pet owners would be appalled to see the conditions that these animals were living in, and just dumbfounded that somebody would treat animals the way that they were treated in this situation.
Yeah, I'm seeing here, the home was filthy, the dogs were malnourished, exposed to urine and feces. It was an illegal puppy mill. And so do you know that these dogs were being sold across the US? Was this something kind of contained regionally? What do we know about their operation?
So it's an ongoing investigation, but from what I've gathered thus far is that there were definitely some posting on social medias indicating that they had puppies for sale. So as broad as that can reach, I'm not sure if that individual opened up to public access or private friend access, but I can tell you that they were being advertised on social media.
Yeah, so I guess when I hear something like this, I feel for several different groups of people. One being the people who may have been waiting for one of those dogs, if they had already kind of worked out a deal, but then a bust like this happens, and then they're like, wait, what happens? Do you all end up having to contact the people that they have contacted? What happens from that standpoint?
I think that would fall beyond the scope of law enforcement to reach out to private buyers. It would kind of fall by the wayside, if you would. As a potential buyer, I can certainly understand a frustration, and if there is any exchange of money minus in exchange for an animal, obviously that's a civil matter that would have to be addressed through the courts potentially. But ultimately, no, I don't think that as a detective I would reach out to those individuals unless I knew them, right? If I had information on who may have purchased dogs, I think the right thing would be to contact them and just kind of brief them a little bit on what happened. But a lot of that information probably isn't available.
Yeah, I just feel for someone if you thought you were getting a puppy for your kid for Christmas, and then this, you're like, well, puppy's not coming to you now. These were pit bulls and Frenchies. The other group of people I think about are law enforcement. Like, what is it like going in a home like that? What types of precautions do you all have to take? What is the moment of making entry into that home like? I mean, with those conditions.
So the Kenosha Police Department has a unit of community service officers that handle the vast majority of our animal complaints. And so they're highly trained individuals to deal with this. And these particular individual officers had multiple experiences with this particular home in the past. So they were very familiar with a couple of the dogs in the home that are known to be aggressive. So they led the way, and they safely removed a couple aggressive dogs from the home to make it safe for officers to go in. As funny as that may sound, they have the equipment that a patrol officer wouldn't have to appropriately engage or approach this type of situation. So it's a joint effort for sure. Additionally, you think we've removed 27 animals from this home. As a police department, we don't have a kennel to put them in or a facility. So we have an agreement with the Wisconsin Humane Society, their Kenosha campus specifically, that we ended up dropping all 27 dogs off at this location, which puts a huge burden on them.
Yeah, and that was the last group that I was going to say for the animals themselves. So do we know the status of the animals now?
I don't know the exact status of them. Standard protocol with something like this, with a felony investigation, the animals are maintained for a period of time so that the court system can play out. Everybody is innocent until proven guilty. So if this case down the road, they find that the two suspects that we have taken into custody are not guilty, they're entitled to those dogs. So they have to maintain those animals for a long period of time, and until this goes through the court system, unfortunately the burden falls on them. And as I've told other media outlets, anybody in the Kenosha area that is willing to and can help dropping off dog food or blankets or anything, they're an important part of our daily operations, the Wisconsin Humane Society. So anything that we can do to try and help relieve some of the pressure that we've put on them would be great.
Now, I do want to ask you, I mean, again, let's just say they're innocent of the charges against them. Again, going back to the other recent conversation that we had that was sort of similar to this, the people still couldn't bring the animals home because of like an ordinance in that particular area that actually dictates how many animals a family can have in their home. Is there no ordinance of that sort for your area?
There absolutely is, and that's part of this investigation as well. So in Kenosha, the ordinance specifies that you're not allowed to have more than 3 dogs unless you have particular licenses. So if you have a license to sell animals, then you could, in theory, have more animals. Or if you have some sort of business that requires you to have more than 3 animals on your property at any given time for grooming or kenneling for other individuals, sure. But by no means am I suggesting that all 27 dogs would be released back to them with no direction or some sort of guidance. And I don't believe that's going to be the case here. I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what is your advice to other families, whether they're in the market for an animal, because of course that's what breeds these puppy mills, or if they are kind of thinking of trying to breed their animals?
It's an interesting question. As a girl dad here in Wisconsin, we have what's called Wisconsin Circuit Court Access, which provides the public with access to cases that have gone through or currently gone through the court system. And if you know the individual's name that you might be purchasing an animal from, you can get on Wisconsin Circuit Court Access and look that individual up and see if they have prior offenses or convictions for mistreating animals. You know, like I said, as a girl dad, if my girl starts dating a guy, I might look under there to see what kind of history this individual has to protect her. And you know, you can do the same with animals. And if anybody were to have simply typed in the male suspect's name in this case, they probably would have found that open case and made a more educated decision on whether or not to buy an animal from this family.
Never thought about that, but that is really great advice. Thank you so much for your time and for what you do on a regular basis, Lieutenant Hecker. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. You guys have a great day.
All right, you too. Please be safe.